Hey everyone, so today we'll be looking at this lead code problem, top k frequent elements. So given an integer array nums and an integer k, return the k most frequent elements. Okay, so let us consider this example. We have a nums array, there are total 6 elements in it, and we need to return the two most frequent elements. Okay, so basically we'll have to count the frequency of each element over here in this array. Okay, so one is occurring 3 times, two is occurring 2 times, and three is occurring 1 time. So the two most frequent elements are 1 and 2. If the value of k was 1, then the one most frequent element would have been 1 because frequency of 1 over here is 3, which is the highest in this array. Okay. So basically this was quite an interesting problem and the solution is also quite interesting. I learned about this solution from Neatcode's video. He's quite famous on YouTube. So I think you should go and check his video first because he has explained it in a very well and precise manner. All right, so let's get into the solution. So first thing that comes in my mind is that obviously I'll have to have some kind of a lookup object, a map that would the count, store the count of each element. So basically an object that would store one's count, which is 3, two's count, which is 2, and three's count, which is 1. Okay, and then we'll have to return the two most frequent elements. So over here, 3 is the highest, so we'll have to return 1, and 2 is the next highest, so we return 2. Okay, so basically this is sorted. But what if we have a situation wherein the occurrence of 1 is 1, occurrence of 2 is, let's say, 3, and occurrence of 3 is, let's say, 2. Okay, so then we might have to, sort this object based on this value and then return the k most uh, keys. So I'm not sure if we can do, we might have to do something like, wherein to reshuffle the object such that it is sorted based on the values. Okay, so over here 3 will become 2 and 1 should become 1. Or we might have to, first get the or reshuffle or change the keys with the values. So value 1 becomes the key 1, then the value 3 becomes the key, and 2 becomes the value, something like this. And then sort this and then get the k most element. However, one thing that I learned in this while solving this problem was something called as bucket sort. Okay, so basically, you have this uh, certain some kinds of numbers are put into kind of a bucket and then sorted individually. This kind of sort works when you have some range of numbers. So this is what I understood. Okay, but our situation is quite different. So I'll just directly go into how the solution would work over here in this situation. Okay, so we would have an array, okay, and its index would basically be the frequency. So index would basically be the count or the frequency, and its value would be basically an array consisting of that much frequency. Okay, so if we consider this example over here, which is 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, and 3. Okay, so after creating that lookup object, what we can do is, so let me write down the lookup object over here once again. So 1 is occurring 3 times, 2 is occurring 2 times, okay, and 3 is occurring once. Okay, so after we have created the lookup object, we'll have to create the array because we'll be storing the frequency and the value in this array. Okay, so our array would be of size 4 because there wouldn't be any element whose frequency is 0, because we are using an array, so our array starts with an index 0, so the array index 0 will just be like that. Okay, then we would have any element whose frequency is just 1, then any element whose frequency is 2, and then any element whose frequency is 3. So our array would be, of size nums of length plus 1. Okay, so then we would also have 4 and 5 and 6. I'll tell you why this later. Okay, so let's assume that this is our index, which is basically the frequency. Okay, and what will be our value? So our value will be basically an array, and we'll store all the elements whose frequency are the index. Okay, and let me just create some empty array here first so that it becomes easier. Okay, so now if we have to consider this object that we had got, the lookup object that we had got in our initial solution, we understand that 1 is occurring 3 times, and over here in this array 3 is being, this index being our frequency. In 3 we'll have to push 1 over here in this object. Then over here 2 is occurring 2 times, so 2 is the frequency, so we'll have to put 2 over here. And 3 is occurring once, so in this 1 we'll have to put 3. And then we need to traverse it from right to left and just extract the k frequent elements. So over here k is 2, so we'll have to return 1 comma 2. Okay, now let's say our array is only consisting of ones, so there are just 6 ones, an array of size 6, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Okay, this is our array. Consider this being our array. Okay, so the length, after sorting, after creating the lookup object, we would get something like this: 1 comma 6, where 1 is the element and 6 is the frequency. Now when we create our bucket sorting array over here, we are considering the array size to be nums plus 1. So 6 plus 1, 7. Okay, so we'll have 7 length array and its last index would be 6. So over here in this situation, our array would have on the 6th index the value 1. Okay, so that is why we are considering an array of size nums of length plus 1. We would not have any element whose frequency is 0. So this is basically going to be an empty uh, slot over here. Now let's consider that there is another some there is 2 comma 2 over here. So our array size becomes 7 and 8. Okay, this. So 2 comma 2. So over here 2 is equal to of size 2. Okay. So in this situation 2 is a frequency and its value is 2. So we'll have something over here. Now let's say if our object is like this 1 comma 4 sorry 2 comma 2 and 3 comma 2. Okay, so over here the frequency of 1 is 4, so in this 4 index we have to put 1. I'll remove this. Okay, and the frequency of 2 is 2 and frequency of 3 is also 2. So in our 2 second index, we will have two elements, 2 comma 3. Okay, and if k is equal to 2, then we will have to traverse, and when we traverse from right to left, the return would be 1 comma 3 or 1 comma 2, and both the answer would have been correct. All right, so this was quite an interesting solution, and I hope I was, able to do justice while explaining the solution. But anyways, let's start, writing the code over here. So first thing is I'll have to create a lookup object or a map. I've been using lookup a lot, but I'll like to continue using that. So const lookup, it would be of type key. So I'm just writing the type over here. So key would be of type string and its value would be of type number. Okay. So this is an empty object. Now I'll have to loop through the nums array. For each, we take num in the callback function and we have to add to the lookup object. So lookup of num, okay, will be equal to lookup of num plus 1. If the lookup of num doesn't exist because in the first insert it would be undefined, so we'll have to make it 0. Okay, so if this value is undefined, then we make it 0 and then add 1 to it. So this will make sure that our first entry is successfully inserted into the lookup object. Okay, next is we need to create a bucket sort array. Okay, so basically an array whose length would be nums of length plus one extra character. Why? Sorry, one extra length. Why? Because there wouldn't be any element whose frequency would be 0. Okay, so let us call this bucket. Const bucket. It would be an array of numbers. Okay, like this, and we would have to create a new array whose length would be nums.length plus 1. Okay, and let us fill this entire array with empty arrays. Okay, so basically it would be something like this. On the 0th position, we would have an empty array, and on the first position, we would have an empty array, and so on and so forth till 6th index, we would have a empty array, something like this. Okay. Now what we need to do is we need to loop through the lookup object and start filling in the bucket array. Okay, so for const let uh, frequency in lookup. Okay, so frequency is the key over here. Okay, no, so the frequency is going to be uh, okay, just let me take a moment to think over here. So frequency is going to be the key. Okay, so this key 1. So now in our bucket, okay, I need to consider the frequency. So on the third index over here, if we consider this, okay, one is our element and three is its frequency. So in the bucket of three, we will have to insert an array and its item value will be one. Okay, so this is something that we need to do. Okay, I'll just write it here so that it becomes easier for me. But okay, so bucket of lookup of frequency. Okay, and then this frequency has to be of type number because our objects in JavaScript store its key in the string format. Okay, so on the third index, for that what I'll do is I'll create a constant index equal to lookup of number of frequency. Okay, so this becomes easier to read and I can have bucket of index is equal to, so if we have to consider this object, one is occurring three times, so on the one over here, so basically it is going to be, so this lookup of frequency of one, which is the key, would return three. So over here bucket of index, so bucket of three should be the frequency. Okay, we have to insert the frequency, but this bucket of index consists of empty arrays, so we'll have to insert it into an array. What if that array already has some value? So we'll have to first get that value. So we'll have to say bucket of index. Okay, so basically spread it something like this. Spread the earlier items and then insert the frequency over here. Okay, I'm just thinking out loud. Okay, so this would be an empty object. Okay, we are spreading it and then we are adding the frequency. But this has to be a number. Okay, all right. So we have got this now. So in our bucket array, we are storing an array. We're spreading the earlier all the values and then we're adding the new value. Okay, or we could have we should have we can also do something like this. You can use the concat method over here instead of using this bucket of this dot concat and we concatenate. So this is more, this is also readable and this is also readable. But let's go with the spread operator over here. So now we have started filling the bucket array. Okay. Now we need to loop through the bucket array from right to left and then extract the values from that any array up to k elements, up to k. Okay. So let's store our uh, output in an empty array first. Now we need to loop through the bucket array. So let I equal to bucket dot length minus 1, I greater than equal to 0, I minus minus. All right. Okay. So now we are traversing from right to left in our bucket array, and now we need to check, okay, because it's going to be an array. This bucket array also, this bucket array basically stores in each index, it stores an array. Okay, so we'll have to now loop through that array. So for let x equal to 0, x less than bucket of I dot length x plus plus. Okay, and now we need to push the items. So bucket of I of x over here. Or what we can do is we can just, you know, have a constant over here. Let items equal to bucket of I. So this becomes items and this becomes items of x. All right. So we started pushing it into our output array. But we also need to check if our output dot length is greater than equal to. Is it crossing k? Then we need to return output. Okay. So we have told that there will be guarantee that the answer is unique and there will be an answer. Okay. So if we find out that okay, the output array already has k elements, okay, then we directly return the output over here. And just for the readability purpose, we'll return the output over here. We will return empty object here. Okay. Sorry, empty array over here. All right. So this looks okay. Let us run this and see. All right. Submit. Perfect. So we have got an acceptance, and yes, this was quite an interesting problem, and I learned a lot from this. Okay. Thank you for watching.